that lets you save.
Okay.
Never carry your phone in your pocket or in your bra. Never use your laptop on your lap. Never hold a phone up to your head to make a call. Always use speakerphone or a wired headset.
Welcome to Exploring Mind and Body with Drew Tadia. Drew is an expert in nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. And he wants to help you live a healthier, longer, and more active life. Now here's your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of nationally syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in, for being a part of our True Form Life community. We're coming at you with a brand new show. We appreciate whether you're listening on terrestrial radio across the country or as a podcast around the world. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. So stick around. We got all that coming up.
This is Exploring Mind and Body. Naturally improve your lifestyle one show at a time with your host, Drew Tadia.
We live in a small beach town, about a mile from the beach, and it's really, really nice. All the beaches, these are kind of the nicest beaches in Panama in this area, and you can go and be like the only people on the whole beach and just spend the day and relax. And so, but we live in a kind of an expat town, so has things like fast internet and good supermarkets and even a hospital. So it has a lot of the stuff that you kind of need for a comfortable life, but it's still a small town and in a pretty remote part of Panama.
Sounds miserable.
Yeah.
Living on the beach with good internet and hospitals. I mean, I wouldn't want that.
No, I know. It's rough. It's truly rough.
How did you get there?
We were actually stranded here during COVID and decided, instead of kind of negotiating our way back to the States, that we would just get our residency and get a house and chill out. So,
oh my gosh. Another horrible thing to happen.
Yeah. Victim of COVID, just like so many others.
So you were there visiting?
Yeah, we were planning. This was Panama was the first stop on an extended tour around Latin America, and so our next stop was Colombia, and we still haven't made it to Colombia. So we're actually, yeah, as of yesterday, it's 2 years.
So was it difficult for you to get residency?
No, it's super easy for Americans and Canadians to get residency here. It's like the easiest country in the world.
Do you have an extra room?
We have a plan to put up a casita in the back that'll become my office, and so this can resume its function as the guest room.
Nice. So you do have an extra room.
Yeah.
That's all I got out of that.
Yeah. It does actually. We did put in, when we took out the bed, we put in a sofa bed. Yeah, like one of those convertible couches. So technically, we can accommodate a guest. I wouldn't recommend the comfort level of that bed, but I guess it depends on how badly you want to see Panama.
I don't want to see Panama. I want to live in Panama.
Yeah.
I played baseball in university, and I played with a couple of guys from Panama.
Oh, okay.
And super nice guys, if that represents the culture.
Yeah,
But,
it's a very friendly culture, very chill and friendly.
Yeah. It's hot there?
Yeah. But, my last stop before here was Vegas. So, it depends what you want to compare it to.
Is that where you lived?
Yeah, for 5 years.
Nice. And you're like, hey, let's go for a trip around the world, and got stuck in Panama.
Yep, that's exactly it. You got it.
Hey, why didn't that happen to me?
Yeah. Did you try?
No, I didn't try.
That's the first step.
Well, it's crazy. I was actually in LA. We also have a place in LA, and right now I'm in Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was here in Canada when COVID hit, and they're talking about closing the Canadian-U.S. borders, and then at first I thought it was like kind of a joke, and then the grocery stores were empty, and then that's when it first hit me. I was like, because we have a smaller apartment there, just a studio apartment, 1 bedroom, and you don't have big, like in Canada we have basements and deep freezes, and you could survive in LA, if you don't have food
Yeah.
for a week, you can't really survive. So that was when it first hit me. All the grocery stores were empty and people were going a little bit crazy. And then I was separated from my wife and most of my family's up here anyway. So I ended up jumping on a plane. It was almost an overnight thing. I think it was, if I remember correct, it was like a Wednesday, Thursday when things started to hit the fan. And then it was grocery stores were completely empty on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, Sunday, Monday, they're saying we're closing the flight. We're talking about closing the borders. And then you don't know how long you might be stuck for. So I think it was Monday or Tuesday morning, I jumped on a plane and came back.
Flew back. Yeah. Yeah, that's the same sort of decision process we went through, except the United States didn't look that compelling a destination for us at that time. So,
right.
Where in LA is your pad?
Redondo Beach, LA.
Oh, very nice. I lived in Venice for 10 years.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're almost neighbors.
Yeah.
Very similar.
If you adjust for time, yeah.
Yeah, right. In traffic.
Yeah.
So this one time we were going to take a bus to Venice, and it was about an hour bus ride. We're like, do we sit on the bus for an hour? So then we looked it up to ride a bike. And it was about an hour to ride a bike. So we're like, why would we sit on a bus for an hour if we could just cruise down the coast for an hour? Seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, it's gorgeous.
So you're in Panama, and then are you like missing home or wish you can get back or?
No, not at all. No. And so we'd planned for an extended trip. So we, gave up we sold our cars, we put everything into storage. And so we don't have any rent or anything that we're just double paying or anything like that. So, we were just kind of set up to be stranded, I guess.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
So what is it like? I don't even know what, I was in Sri Lanka. I kind of picture tropical kind of people selling fruit on the side of the street. Is it?
Yeah, it depends on the town, but yeah, I mean, so here, not so much. There's one store where you can get fresh farm produce twice a week. No, it's more, I don't know how to describe it. It's a very picturesque little pueblo. The first female president of Panama, so she was president from, I think, 2000 to 2005. She was from this town. And so when she was president, she directed, I think, a lot of investment here. So until 2004, this town wasn't even connected by pavement to the rest of Panama. It was dirt, gravel roads. So she directed investment here. And so it's just this adorable little town. It's a population of, I think, 2,500, and about 20% of that is expats. So it has like these cute little homes and little stores. There's a town square, and a few small. They're not technically supermarkets. They call them mini supers, but you can get a lot of what you need here in this town. And the one thing you can get the way that you're thinking of is fish, because this is a big fishing area. So you can go down to the beach every day when the fishermen come in and buy some fresh fish.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You guys do that?
Yeah, but our favorite isn't. There's some issue with it right now, so we can't, because this is the tuna coast of Panama, and but no one seems to be catching any tuna right now. So, but we get a lot of shrimp and octopus and mahi.
I think I had some mahi when I was in Hawaii. I don't remember. It's good fish.
Yeah. Well, fresh fish of any kind is good fish, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, when we were in Sri Lanka, we actually were walking down the beach, and they had these restaurants on the beach. And then they would have, when you're walking, they'd have tables set up with fish from a bucket. I don't know. I'm guessing they fished it. Then they put the fish in the bucket, and then from the bucket, they lay it on ice. So it's right from the ocean. You're walking by, and then they say, which fish do you want? We'll cook it at this restaurant. And
That's
like,
great.
all right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that kind of thing. Yeah, here again, the big thing that keeps getting me every time, because we were just at the beach on Sunday 2 days ago, is you can just go to these beaches and they're so gorgeous, and you can basically be alone. It's so amazing to me that there's these gorgeous, gorgeous beaches, and they're not crowded. And not just not crowded, they're almost unpopulated, and it's just fantastic way to experience it.
a little different than the LA beaches.
Yeah, just un poquito.
Yeah. So what did I want to ask you about that? Oh, I want to ask you about the trash, because in Sri Lanka the trash was atrocious. I was shocked.
Oh, no, here it's fine. I mean, we have trash pickup once a week, and I heard that this town did have a bit of a trash problem until a few years ago, and the mayor, he's one of these young, dynamic mayors, and he did some kind of social pressure stunt to really kind of peer pressure everybody into cleaning up, and they have. And then we get some trash washing up, like especially if there's a big earthquake in the Pacific or even in Asia. It can lead to a lot of trash washing up on our shores. And so when that happens, they do community cleanups on the beaches too. So the beaches are super clean, and the town is really clean, and the infrastructure here is very, it's conducive to a Western lifestyle.
Nice. So you said expat. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, expatriate. So someone like Americans and Canadians and Europeans who come live here, we're called expats.
Okay. And is that welcome there?
Yeah.
The locals are happy to have you there, or don't really want you there?
Yeah, which to me is still a shock, because it was only 30 years ago that the United States invaded this country and deposed its leadership. But they still, they're very welcoming to expats and the economic infusions that we represent.
So you guys don't have any plans of going anywhere?
We would like to resume our trip to Colombia, but no, we don't have fixed plans yet. Our flight credit, I think, expires in July. So, from when they were canceled for COVID. So I think we have until July if we want to make use of the tickets we already paid for. But no, not in a particular rush. We both work, so. And we're both getting a lot of work done these days. So it's not like we're retired, unfortunately. We still have, jobs. So,
well, that's the same as when I'm in LA. Like, people think, and I spend half the year there. But people still, when I'm in LA, people see pictures, they still think I'm on vacation. I work all the time.
Yeah, no, the LA picture. Yeah. LA also feels a little bit like you're on vacation, even when you're not.
Right. So you started your business before you got there?
Yeah, well, I started the business in 2012. So when I started the business, I actually had another business. So I started SYB as a part-time, sort of as an experiment, as I don't know if hobby is the right word, but, I'd been in software development for about 20 years, and I'd really been interested in other types of work, and I'd been surrounded by tech and high tech and software experiences, particularly in the LA side of the tech industry, where it's entertainment focused, and I enjoyed aspects of it, but at the same time, I felt, I'm trying to think, this is the first time I've spoken about it in these terms. So I felt like technology was demanding a lot of people, and through connectivity, and issues we're starting to see more and more and more today. But I was feeling this, back in 12 years ago. And, even people just not being willing to turn off their phone for the night while you're out on a date or for the weekend or whatever it is, and just these constant pressures. And so that's when I started working on the Overpowered book with my father. And and I got more into the EMF issue, I saw an opportunity to do something that I thought, would be good and helpful for people, and also a little bit more fulfilling for myself personally. So I started it, like I say, part-time in 2012. That was when I helped my father write Overpowered, released the first product in 2013, and then it was 3 years later that I sold my half of the software company and to my partner and went full-time with SYB. So I've been doing SYB full-time, part-time for 10 years, full-time for 6 years. And so, yes, I started it from Vegas. I mean, I started the company part-time from LA, but by the time I went full-time, I was in Vegas.
So what, you got tired of California taxes and you moved to Vegas, or what?
Yeah, I mean, Vegas. Well, no, I mean, I moved around in between LA and Vegas, and there were just some professional reasons why Las Vegas made sense at the time, and it wasn't a place where I ever thought I saw myself ever living. But once I started living there, you start to realize, like, everyone's impression of Vegas is based on the Strip, but when you live in Vegas, you never go to the Strip unless you have friends coming in from out of town. And that is one of the benefits of Vegas, is when you live in Vegas, so many of your friends come through town, like once a year, once every couple of years. So you get to see a lot of people. But it really, other than the summer heat, which can get intense, it really is a very nice place to live. And I feel like in the pandemic, more and more people have discovered that. So I don't know exactly where rents and home values are. I know they've gone up a tremendous amount, but that's because so many people started moving particularly from California into Vegas, because it really is. It has great entertainment. It has great restaurants. It has, or at least when I lived there, had like essentially no traffic. I think I was in 3 traffic jams in the 5 years that I lived there, and it just had a lot of compelling advantages. So that's the Vegas story. But yeah, I mean, I'm not there right now. That's for sure.
I had a friend that lived in Vegas, and she said the same thing, that you don't go to the Strip if you live in Vegas. But then at the same time, I feel like it might be a challenging place because everyone wants to go partying in Vegas, and you're like, I have a job and I live here.
Yeah, the people who live there don't go partying all the time. Again, unless you have friends coming into town. So that's really when you focus your partying, is when your friends are coming into town and getting crazy.
Yeah. So when did let's get closer to what you do as a profession. So you started doing that more full time in Vegas, and and then so how did that progress into a full time gig?
Well, so I mean, it progressed. Starting, like I say, I launched the first product in 2013. Launched a few more products, 2014, 2015, and I saw market potential. And I realized if I was going to be able to realize that potential, I really needed to give it my all. I also realized, where I knew this going in, but it really started to hit home, doing SYB is a fundamentally different skill set than the software development that I'd done. I mean, obviously, analytical thinking and running a business those are kind of portable skills. But I didn't know, when I started SYB, I didn't know how to do product design, product development. I didn't know supply chain management. I didn't know direct-to-consumer marketing. There were basically nothing that I did at SYB involved skills that I'd mastered in the prior 20 years, except for education, because SYB does a lot of education through articles and webinars and videos, and I'd done a lot of education previously. But again, with a few exceptions, I didn't really have the proper skill set to do SYB when I started SYB. So switching to full-time gave me the ability to focus on it and to focus on growing my skills that would be required to grow it into the future.
What's funny is I think that selling is such an important aspect in life. Like, we're always selling, doesn't matter what it is. And you don't really realize that until you get into sales. You know what I mean? I had these conversations, a couple brief conversations online for a couple of use things. Like, we're looking for an extra fridge or a second fridge for the basement. And then I just bought a snowmobile. I said, if I'm going to be here all winter, I'm going to enjoy it. But you run into so many people that don't know how to communicate properly. I feel like you get one word answers, you get thumbs up. I feel like people don't know how to have a polite conversation. It's almost like if you're trying to sell something, they feel like or trying to buy something, one side or both sides feels like one of them is trying to take advantage of you. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a really odd dynamic. And those of us that are in sales, like, as an entrepreneur, you have to, once you learn how to develop a product, you have to learn how to sell it, which takes up quite some time. So that's something that we do on a regular basis. But then you have these conversations with people that might be one-off selling a product or just trying to get rid of a snowmobile or a fridge. And the conversations I've had they're just so odd. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? Why do you think the world is out to get you? And why can't you be a polite human being?
I think, what you just said, well, it touches on what I was talking about. But separate from that, I feel like it touches on something that, I think a lot of people are seeing, which is people are just increasingly weird. They are increasingly on edge. They are increasingly anxious, and you see it in any number of different interactions. I don't know. My intuition is that Canada is probably not quite as extreme as the United States on this, but is likely headed in the kind of the same direction. So I don't know what you'd say. 70% of the issues that I'm talking about in the U.S. are probably present in Canada.
100%.
But yeah. And I think, obviously the pandemic had a lot to do with it. I also happen to believe that our relationship with technology is a big part of it. And also what the big tech platforms, how they are, let's say, managing the communication on their platforms is a part of it. And so I see that not just in sales interactions. I see it in just dealing with people. People are more on edge. They are more anxious. And like I said, I mean, the pandemic is more or less kind of coming to an end. Not that the virus has gone anywhere, but I think people are over the kind of the lockdown mentality, the quarantine mentality, that it's not 100% over, but that's ending. And so the ripple effects through the economy, they'll get weaker and weaker over time, I think is what we're seeing. But to the extent that that's responsible for this, I think that'll diminish. But I don't, a lot of what has happened in the past couple of years, and what was happening before that, building up to it, that isn't going away. And that is one of the things that just having a better relationship with your technology and maybe having a bit more regulation on companies like Facebook and Google, that won't solve all of it, but that would, I think, help start moving things in the right direction. I don't know if I expressed that in clear terms, but I really do think that because the pandemic really, it exacerbated social tension, but it exacerbated our personal relationship with technology, because we all had to use tech so much more for basically every aspect of our job that you couldn't go into work for, or you couldn't go to the supermarket, so you ordered it online, or you couldn't go to the mall, so you ordered it off of Amazon, and your kids couldn't go to daycare, so you stuck them in front of an iPad, and all of these things, because I'm not just talking about my gut here. There's growing body of science showing that our relationship with technology. And you know, from our past conversation, I focus a lot on EMF, but here I'm talking about separate from EMF. Our relationship with technology creates depression. It negatively impacts cognition, negatively impacts our ability to sleep, which then has follow-on effects, because when you're not getting enough sleep, that further fuels conditions like anxiety and depression. And so that, you know, tying that back to the thing you were talking about in terms of that oddness or that tension in that the sales conversations over a snowmobile, I think I see that in so many different interactions throughout society, both on the personal level and kind of on the larger scale.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And you forget, because it's been so long, like year 3, and I feel like people are waiting for things to go back to normal, but then I also feel like this is normal, like this is life, and we have to adapt to it. And I feel like we have to learn to be okay with maybe more technology, but also being a human being and being compassionate and not so robotic, just because we're using all these pieces of electronic that I feel like probably represent less human interaction than they do.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, one thing about so we spent the first 6 months of the pandemic. I mentioned, you know, when it hit, we had the choice to either stay in Panama or return to the United States, and we opted for Panama. Panama at the time, it had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. Now, other countries have, you know, some parts of other countries have caught up on that, including Australia. But Panama, so we were locked in our apartment basically all week. We were allowed outside of the apartment twice a week for 2 hours, but we were not allowed outside of the apartment at the same time, because we were, you know, obviously we are different genders, and it was a gender-based system. So I was allowed out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she was allowed out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Oh my gosh. And you know, as we were going through it, you know, we're also watching news from around the world, and we think, wow, this is, everything is crazy. I'm glad we're here. And fortunately, we had a balcony, so we could at least get air. But now, in retrospect, I look back on that. It's like, can you imagine being locked in an apartment with, just pick your favorite person in the world, you know, and you're locked in an apartment with that person for 6 months. I mean, that's kind of like International Space Station level kind of situation where, you know, and the amount of stress that we must have dealt with and internalized in that period, you know, it must be astronomical. But at the time, you know, we were just, and for me, work was going quite well at that point. So I just channeled everything into work. I was working 70, 80 hours a week at that point, since I had nothing else to do. It was either that or Netflix. So, but yeah, I mean, you think back on it, like what must that have done? But I mean, right now I'm feeling pretty good. I don't feel like I have the hangover effect of that experience, but you know, it had to have impacted me.
Right, and we don't know how much damage that has done to individuals, and we're fortunate to be motivated for our work and our job. Like, we did the same thing. Like, we locked ourselves in the basement and like, all right, if we're not doing anything, may as well make some new products. We made a dozen products in 6 months, you know? So yeah, I mean, at least we could channel that energy somewhere. And some people were just basically losing their minds, you know, over, you know, technology or staring at a screen or whatever it was, no human interaction. And then you think even a couple years later, we're still dealing with that. And how long is that going to take for people to get back to, you know, if you can get back to what, you know, how you were before? Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
I don't think you go back to how it was before, but I mean, you don't keep going the way it's been going either. There's a term like the new normal is pretty fraught. So let's not use that. But you know, there's kind of a balance to be. I mean, like right now in Panama, we're getting the Omicron surge. So we're, a couple of months, I guess, behind North America on that. So it's really hitting here. And I mean, the number of daily cases is up about 100-fold in the last 6 weeks. But even given that, like I said, this was a country where it had some of the strictest lockdowns in the world. This time around, everyone's like, no way, and they were just, no one's doing quarantines. Everyone's, here there's a mask law, and that hasn't gone away. So everyone has to wear a mask out in public unless you're sitting down at a restaurant where you can take it off. So, and people don't get upset about masks here. But other than that, it's like they're not shutting things down. They're not putting on curfews or quarantines. And like I say, the surge, at least in terms of infections, it's the highest of the entire pandemic right now. But the reaction is entirely different. And I think that's kind of how it's going to go from here on out.
Right. So tell us about EMF. Tell us about all the damage people have just been dealing with locked in their houses.
So, as you know, I know a lot about that subject. Is there something in some aspect of it you wanted to get into here?
Yeah, well, I'm interested in the business aspect, and then how people can help live a bit healthier and maybe avoid some of that damage that occurs.
So the thing with EMF, and for those who don't know or who didn't listen to our chat on the last time I was on your show, stands for electromagnetic field. It's a form of energy made up of electricity and magnetism. So it's a form of energy, and there's a form that all of you are familiar with, and that's visible light. So the light from the sun is a type of EMF, and for almost the complete entirety of human history and the history of life on Earth, that was essentially the only form of EMF to which we were exposed. That plus the Earth's own magnetic field. Then there are other forms of EMF. So they exist on this thing we call a spectrum. Just like the rainbow is a spectrum, the rainbow is actually a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So there's certain forms of EMF with more energy than sunlight, and we call those ionizing, and they include things like X-rays and gamma rays, and they are very, very, very dangerous, even in very, very, very small doses, and that is universally accepted. That's why when you get an X-ray at the dentist, they put a lead coat on you, and they actually leave the room to get as far away as possible.
What?
You're still getting it in your head, but you need to get it in the head because for the X-ray to work, it has to go to your head. But by putting on the lead coat, they're minimizing your exposures in your other part of your body. And yes, they go away because they are doing this over and over and over again.
Right.
And so the repeated exposures would be. But even with those precautions, you're supposed to get as few X-rays as possible. And when I go to a dentist, if they try to give me an X-ray, I ask them why. Is it just because it's been a year? Because if it's just because it's just been a year, I'm not gonna just get my head X-rayed. But again, this is totally non-controversial stuff. There's no one out there saying X-rays are safe, get more of them, because everyone knows those forms of EMF are super harmful. So then there's forms of EMF with less energy than sunlight. Those are called non-ionizing, and those come from everything that communicates wirelessly and everything that runs on electricity. So that includes cell phones and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It includes power lines and refrigerators and blenders. Everything that communicates wirelessly or that runs on electricity is a source of this type of EMF. And it can be easy to ignore because it's odorless, it's invisible, it's tasteless. And it can also be you can also kind of be lulled into thinking, well, it's everywhere, must have always been everywhere. And the fact is that it hasn't, right? Because until the mid-19th century, until the invention of the light bulb, there was no human-made EMF on the planet. So again, for the vast, vast, vast majority of human history and the history of life on Earth, there was no human-made EMF. But since the invention of the light bulb, you have more and more and more and more of it every year. Traditional scientific thinking was that this stuff was benign, that it was harmless. And that what science has shown really the science on this goes back about 100 years at this point, but particularly in the last few decades, is what it has shown is that that assumption was false, that the assumption that non-ionizing forms of EMF is safe or benign is false, that it does harm human life as well as all forms of life because of the particular mechanisms that we can talk about separately, but because it impacts us, for instance, at the cellular level, it impacts DNA, it impacts the flow of energy in living things, it impacts all living things. So this stuff comes from laptops, it comes from cell phones, it comes from your smart TV, it comes from, and if you sit down and think about it, and you think about today, what are all these sources in my environment? And then you think back to when you were a kid, what were all the sources in your environment? And you can start to see in your head just how much this stuff has grown. Because when I was growing up, right, we certainly didn't have cell phones. They weren't even invented until after I was born. Certainly didn't have Wi-Fi. Didn't have a cordless phone in the house. We did it at one point, but not when I was really young. We didn't have smart TVs. We didn't have cell towers nearby. We didn't have Alexa speakers. I didn't have an iPad, right? So when you start to realize what's in your room or in your home right now, and you think back to when you were growing up, you start to be able to see just how much this has grown, and it continues to grow every year. That's exactly why technologies like 5G are being introduced, because a 4G network does not have the capacity to connect enough devices that are being deployed into the world around us. The health effects that are linked to EMF exposure are very wide, very varied. So at the let's say the lower end or the less concerning end, but still concerning, right? You have issues of anxiety. You have issues of sleep disruption. As you go up the scale, you can see issues of infertility. As you go up the scale further, you have issues of miscarriage and birth defects. As you go up the scale even further, you have the diseases that get the most attention in the media, which are cancers, including and particularly brain tumors. So the science linking EMF exposure to all of these conditions is large. It is continuing to grow. And so that is to answer your question, I guess, the EMF issue, right? We are surrounded by technology that emits this stuff. This stuff is harmful to human health, and the science showing that is significant, and it is very compelling body of research at this point. It's literally thousands of studies. So what can you do? Because this stuff forms the complete infrastructure and underpinning of modern society. So you can't get rid of EMF, right? It's not like with tobacco smoke, where you could regulate tobacco out of existence tomorrow. No one would ever get lung cancer or emphysema again from smoking, and that would be basically fine. I mean, I'm not saying that's what government should do. There's issues of human freedom. I'm just talking in practical terms. If tobacco was banned tomorrow, things would be fine. If EMF was banned tomorrow, right, not only would you and I not be able to talk right now, not only would you not be able to watch Netflix tonight and catch up on Squid Game or whatever, you wouldn't be able to read a book at night without a candle. You would not be able to refrigerate the meat that you got from the supermarket. In fact, the supermarket wouldn't be able to refrigerate it in order to sell it to you, right? You wouldn't be able to call for an ambulance when you got sick or there was a big emergency, right? Everything that defines modern society is a source of this stuff, so you can't get rid of it. So that's where the work that I do comes into play, which is how can you be exposed to less of it? Because that's really the game we're playing here, right? You can't eliminate your exposure to this stuff, but you can reduce your exposure to this stuff, and you can work to eliminate the worst exposures to this stuff. So a lot of what I'm sorry, go for it.
Yeah, before we get into some of those benefits or what you can do about that, I'm wondering what you think about people, like, we know that at least some people have heard about this as an issue, or spending too much time in front of technology. Mm-hmm. Why do you think people don't care? They don't really do much about it. They don't limit their exposure. It's constant, 100% from when you wake up, often in the middle of the night, till when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah. So that is a complicated, let's say there's multiple answers to that question. So one, like I mentioned, EMF, it's invisible, it's odorless, it's tasteless, you can't touch it. It's very, very easy to not even know it's there unless you've heard about it. So right off the bat, it's just easy to ignore. I guarantee you, if EMF looked like tobacco smoke, the discussion would be different. Second, this stuff comes from all of these experiences that we love or have just completely come to rely on. So that includes our phones, which many of us enjoy, and many of us are actually addicted to, which, I mean, I don't use that term lightly. This is a term that is in use in research and academia, and tech addiction, smartphone addiction, this is a real thing. So there are people who just love it. There's people who are actually addicted to it, which means that you are averse to learning anything bad about what that could be doing to you. You have the fact that the science has been polluted. So while there is a bias that shows that this stuff is bioactive, that there are negative, harmful effects, you have other research, much of which has been commissioned by companies like the wireless companies or the power companies, showing that this stuff isn't harmful or isn't as harmful. So, and this is part of the tobacco playbook. That's the same thing that the tobacco companies did back in the 50s and 60s. So then what they do is they muddy the science to complicate and confuse the debate. And then you have the fact that, how would I, in today's day and age, how would I get the message out? I would get the message out using technologies that are owned by companies that profit from, they don't profit from EMF exposure. They profit from things that require EMF exposure. So Facebook doesn't profit by exposing you to EMF, but they profit by showing you ads. They can't show you ads unless you're exposed to EMF. Google profits not from exposing you to EMF. They profit from showing you ads that require, you can't get that ad unless you're being exposed to EMF. Amazon doesn't profit by exposing you to EMF. Amazon profits by you shopping on their website, which you can't do without being exposed to EMF. So these mega platforms that control the communication flow right now are ones that are implicitly averse to this messaging, because this messaging would suggest that you use their products less. And so these are just some of the reasons why more people aren't yet aware of this issue. And even if you are aware of this issue, it is easier to ignore. And so that would be my answer to your question.
So is there benefits to certain types of light? So let me take a step back. I heard about red light therapy, for example. Mm-hmm. Is that is that EMF, or is that a different type?
Yeah, it is EMF. I don't know that much about that particular type of therapy. Another one I know of, but again, don't know that much about it, are these SAD lamps, seasonal affective disorder lamps. Yep. Again, that is a form of EMF. I don't know that much about it. I do know that EMF is used therapeutically. So one of these, and you as an athlete might know about this, TENS machines. They're called TENS, TENS. Yeah. And they use, again, very regulated, very precise doses of magnetic fields to address muscle stress and to relieve pain, and again, particularly for higher performance athletes. And that's just one example. There's many other forms. So EMF used in properly regulated doses for particular reasons can be medicinally beneficial, can be therapeutically beneficial. Also, the red light that you're talking about is a form of visible light. Visible light is the particular type of light to which we were all exposed. Well, I mean, not we were, I mean, humanity was all exposed throughout the course of our evolution. So that particular form of EMF, visible light, is one that does not do the same type and level of damage to us as these human-made forms that we did not evolve around.
What about, I heard about, is it NIF or NIA type of lighting? Ever heard of that? No?
I don't know that one.
I may have just made that up.
Pop quiz, hotshot. Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was similar to red light therapy, NIA, or anyways, I'll find it and I'll send it to you after.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some of the things that you do to help people prevent all this damage that's happening.
Sure. Well, so the biggest changes that people can make are ones that involve their personal relationship with technology. So this comes down to what I call the two rules of EMF protection. One is minimize, and rule number two is maximize. So with minimize, you want to minimize your use of EMF emitting technology, which is all technology. And two is to maximize the distance between your body and that technology when it's in use. So it can be tempting to think, once you start to become aware of this issue, once you start to listen to people like me, this stuff is all around us. What can I do? It's hopeless. It's not hopeless, because you can, even with all of this EMF out in the world, it is often what you do with the technology closest to you that can really determine what your cumulative exposures are, right? So you can't shut down the cell towers that are half a mile and a mile away from you. You can't shut down your neighbor's Wi-Fi, but you are in control of the phone, your phone, and maybe your family's phones. You are in control of the Wi-Fi in your house. You are in control of whether you purchase a pair of AirPods or just go with, like you're using, and I applaud you, wired headset.
Thank you.
Right? So that is where you focus. So when I say minimize your use, I'm talking about not using this stuff when you don't need to. A great example of that, one that, by the way, makes a huge difference for a lot of people that I talk to, because this is one of my top tips, is turning off your Wi-Fi at night. Ideally, you would get rid of the Wi-Fi from your house and switch to Ethernet. But I'm also a realist, and I also deal with real-life customers all the time. I know most people aren't willing to go to that extent to reduce the EMF. But you can turn off your Wi-Fi router at night. Why? Because you're getting the exposure from that device all night long, but you're not using it. Right? So why get the exposure from that thing when you're not even using it? So turning off your Wi-Fi at night is a great way of minimizing your use. Another great way to minimize your use is to not buy smart tech devices that you don't need. Now, I had a long career in software and high tech. I see a lot of value. I am not in high tech. I am not a Luddite by any stretch. But I also recognize that there are a lot of people just mindlessly buying smart devices because they think it's, they should. There's a smart fridge out. I need a smart fridge. There's a smart kitty litter box. I need a smart kitty litter box. There's literally a smart tampon on the market. And they're making everything smart. But the thing is, with each one of those smart devices, you're adding more and more EMF into your environment, often your home environment where you and your family spend so much time. So when one of these smart devices comes out, you think, do I really need this to be smart, this whatever product I'm talking about? One example that I give that I think is particularly useless is smart fridges, because I personally don't see any value to be had in that at all. But the point being, with any new tech that you're evaluating buying, think about, do I really need this? Because once I buy it, it's going to be on and a new source of EMF in my home. And does it really give me the value and enjoyment that justifies that continuous exposure? So those are examples of minimizing. Now, here's why the second rule you'll recall is maximizing. The reason maximizing distance matters so much is because the power of EMF radiation diminishes exponentially with distance. So that means every time you double the distance between your body and the EMF source, you're cutting the power of that exposure by 75%. So this goes back to the point I was trying to make, which was it really matters what you do with the tech in your own life, in your own household, because the exposures from those devices can be much, much greater than from a cell phone tower that's a half mile away or even just down the block. I mean, it all depends on a lot of it. But the point being, the closer this stuff is to you, the more power of the exposure. So those are the ones that you can control, and those are the ones that you should do something about. So what do I mean by maximizing the distance? What are examples there? Well, never carry your phone in your pocket or in your bra. This is something that a lot of people do. It's a really bad habit. In fact, if you read the iPhone manual, you'll see that Apple tells you not to do that, but no one reads the manual, because when the phone is in your pocket or in your bra, you are getting an extended dose of the full power that device has to transmit, right? Because it's right up against your body, and generally for extended periods of time, like when you're walking around all day or when you're working out at the gym. You're talking about 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, and these exposures are very, very significant. So never carry your phone in your pocket or in your bra. Never use your laptop on your lap. Never hold a phone up to your head to make a call. Always use speakerphone or a wired headset. So these are examples of ways that you can maximize distance. So remember, minimizing your use and maximizing your distance, those two rules can make a huge impact on your personal exposure, even as you can't turn off your neighbor's Wi-Fi and you can't shut down the cell phone towers that are outside your window. You still have a lot of control, and you can do so in a way that doesn't negatively impact your ability to enjoy and benefit from modern technology, right? I didn't say give up your phone. I didn't say get rid of Wi-Fi. I didn't say don't use computers.
You could also move to an island like Panama.
Yeah, I mean, we're an isthmus, but yeah, I take your point.
So, you know what I think about is that when we get away, like everybody says that you get away, we're fortunate here, we're close to the mountains. You get away from the mountains, you go for a walk through the, you go through a walk through the woods or wherever it is. In most cases, you're away from technology and everybody feels better. Everyone feels refreshed and ready to go, but no one relates that to not just getting away from work or your home life, but all the being constantly surrounded by all these pieces of technology that's emitting EMF, what you're talking about here. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, it's not just that, because EMF comes from these experiences, right? EMF comes in that sense, it's a byproduct of using Facebook or scrolling on Instagram or watching TikTok or shopping on Amazon. It's a byproduct of these experiences. But those experiences themselves and the amount that we interact with them, those also have mental and physical impact on our health. And so it can be difficult to actually tease out when it comes to some of these issues like anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, rage control issues. It can be difficult to tease out what's actually coming from the EMF versus what's coming from that, prick on Facebook who won't shut up in my comment thread, right? Or whatever it is. But when you detox, you are breaking away from all of it, right? So the benefits that are had are real and they are tangible, and they come from both detoxing from EMF exposure and also detoxing from these toxic experiences. And that's actually that's basically the whole theme of season 2 of my podcast, the Healthier Tech podcast. It's all about disconnecting and detoxing and the impact that it can have on your mind and body.
What do you think about ions? So I read that technology gives off positive ions, and then there's things like, I don't know if they're plants in particular. I've read Himalayan salt lamps, or even if you go to places like the beach where there's places where there's waterfalls, those give off negative ions to help balance out. Is that completely different from what you're talking about?
No, it's not complete. I mean, well, let's just say I talk about this as well. So I don't know if it's completely different or just related or what. But what you're talking about is the practice of grounding, or also called earthing, which is a way of discharging positive ion buildup from your body. And this is also based on real science. And this is also the value of the practice is grounded in science, not to have a bad pun, is grounded in science. So grounding is a real thing. Again, also sometimes called earthing. Now, there's some people who try to do this at home, right? So they'll buy like a grounding mouse pad. And then what you do is you plug it into the wall, into the ground in your wall. And that is a more complicated issue. So without going into more detail on that, I would advise people not to engage in that practice. And again, that's a deeper conversation. So just for simplicity, I'm going to suggest don't do that. So what can you do? What you just talked about. Go to one of these places, like a beach is a great one. A park, depending on where you live, can be a great one. The forest is a fantastic one. And then connect with the ground itself without anything in between, meaning barefoot. And you might not realize why you're feeling better, but you will feel better from that experience. And it is a process of detoxifying your body from the positive ion accumulation, which is a byproduct of modern life. And so again, that is not I just want to emphasize for people, everything I talk about is based in real science. So I know some of the things I say can sound a little hippy-dippy, and that no shame to the hippies, but that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is science says this stuff actually is valid and beneficial.
So with the grounding, does it have to be on grass or dirt, or can it be on a rock or water?
Oh, on rock. So yes. Rock is a good one. I don't know the answer to rock. It can be on earth. It can be on grass. It can be on sand. It can be on water. I don't know the answer to rock. I offhand, I should. I'll look that up. Yeah, you got me. But yeah, I mean, the key is if you're in New York and all you have is Central Park, then go to Central Park. But ideally, you want a place with as little ground current as possible, right? So the further you are away from a dense population, the more beneficial this practice will be for you. And when I say ground current, I'm talking about literally electrical current that's running through the ground. That is a byproduct of modern electrical grids. Okay,
so I think about, and I don't know if I thought about this before our last interview. So thanks for the added stress in my life.
Yeah. Hey, that's my job, man.
But you sit there with the phone in your hand, and now I'm conscious of like, what is happening to my hand while this piece of technology is in my hand? Mm-hmm. What's happening? Is there negative health things happening because I'm holding this piece?
Well, you are getting EMF exposure from that experience. You're getting it at a hand is an important thing, but it's also on the whole scale of like parts of your body that you care about long-term damage to. That is kind of lower on the scale, right? And when I say that, I'm talking about comparing your hand to your brain or to your heart or to your kidney or liver. Everything like that is kind of in the head and torso area. So at least when it's in your hand, the more vulnerable and important parts of your body are further away from it. EMF your body can conduct this stuff, so it doesn't necessarily get localized at the hand, but the highest exposures will be in your hand. Yes, that is correct. I wouldn't particularly, in terms of what science has to say about that, right? What are you going to do? You're going to put 100 people in a lab and have 50 of them hold a phone for 10 years and 50 of them not hold a phone for 10 years, right? So that's where you get up against some of the limitations of what science can show, right? Because in a lab, you can show that EMF had a certain kind of impact on a cell, or it had a certain kind of impact on a rat or some other type of lab animal. But when it comes to studying the incidence of disease in humans, you can't study that in a lab because, like I said, you can't just stick a bunch of humans in a lab, give some of them a phone and some of them not a phone, and keep them there for a decade or two and see what diseases form. That it's impractical and it's immoral. So at that point, you're going out into society, right, and evaluating the incidence of disease in society. That's called epidemiology. In order for epidemiology to work, you need an unexposed population, right? You need to compare, like, the people who are using the phones. How does the incidence of disease compare to those who aren't using the phones? The problem there is who today is not using phones.
The Amish.
Right? Yeah, it's true. And they have a much lower incidence of a wide range of what are broadly called diseases of civilization, which include many that are linked to EMF exposure. But of course, the Amish also have multiple other differences in their lifestyle from not just, it's not like they're just like you, but without a phone.
Right.
Like there's a lot of other differences. Yeah. So the point being, there's challenge when the source of the toxin is so ubiquitous, epidemiology, which is how you would normally approach a problem like the one you just said, it fails. And so we are limited in our ability to understand the damage that this technology is doing by sheer force of how popular and ubiquitous this technology is.
Right. So have they actually put a phone in like a rat's cage and seen any damage? Are you aware of any studies like that? Yeah,
there was a big one that was released in 2018. And this was a 20 million or something on that scale budget. So it was a really big study. It's from the U.S. National Toxicology Program, which is a preeminent research institute in the United States. I believe it's part of the CDC. And they did a, like I say, big budget, large scale rat study on rats, and they found definitive increase in cancer occurrence in the exposed population. And there's multiple other studies. That was a really big one, though, and pretty recent for 2018. So that is an example of studies on rats that show this. Well, at least what I consider to be one of the most important sets of studies in this arena was done in the early 90s. It was on cordless phones, but very, very similar to cell phones. And that was also done on rat cells. And that is the original body of work that has since been replicated many times, but by doctors Lai and Singh, showing that exposure, even brief exposure to cordless phone radiation, breaks DNA in your cells. So that's another example of research that was done on rats and rat cells.
So for you as a business, I'd like to know more about your business. Like, I know that I understand the information you're sharing. I understand you have some products, but are people more interested in this type of information? Because I feel like there's maybe a split. Like, I feel like you have the people that are a bit more health conscious, but then you have the people that are like more technology or newer phones. Like, you have people lining up outside of stores when a new Apple phone is released. So it feels like an interesting dynamic of people that are more conscious and may want to learn more, and other people like, I don't care, give me more technology.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're totally right. The people who, how do I say this? So for years, awareness of EMF as a health issue has been niche, but it has been growing. But it's still quite small when you compare it to just the market for iPhones, right? I mean, the number of people who want an iPhone is way bigger than the number of people who care about EMF still. That said, I feel like we have reached a sort of tipping point in public perception. And let me step back a second and kind of explain what I mean. So for decades, it has been the case that technology has had this kind of halo around it, not unlike yours, except not green, more, white or angelic yellow. But no, seriously, that technology was answering a problem. If there was a new technology to do something, it was cool, it was probably helpful, let's dive in and let's use it. And there was no thought given to the potential downside of it. And this is not a criticism. I mean, I was a part of this generation too, where, the web is coming out. The web will be amazing. Wi-Fi is coming. The Wi-Fi, it's, oh my God, because I was running an office back when Wi-Fi came out. I was like, this really simplifies my ability to set up a network, right? All of these innovations, Facebook came out. People loved Facebook. I can connect with all these people I lost touch with. And that was it, right? You'd stop at, you'd evaluate the benefit, you'd see the benefit, and you dive into the technology. And there was never a thought given to what is the downside of this. Why do I say this now? Because I believe that there has been a tipping point reached where society is starting to see that technology can impact, it can have negative impacts on our lifestyles, on our lives, on our health. And it's not just the EMF issue. In fact, most people don't even most people who aren't aware of the EMF issue can be aware of this, right? Because you see it covered in the news that using Instagram can increase incidence of suicidal ideation in teenage girls. The rate at which we're buying phones is filling up landfills with all these toxic, heavy metals that are used in things like lithium-ion batteries. You are seeing it in the World Health Organization recognizes video game addiction as a disorder, right? There's more and more people are realizing that technology has the potential for human harm in a way that has never been the case before. So yes, tons of people, and I have no illusions about this, tons and tons of people love their technology, and that hasn't changed. But even among a good portion of those people, there's at least an awareness that it's not all good, right? That I should close it. I should load up the screen time app that came with my phone and just track how much. I should maybe use Facebook a little bit less. I should maybe do X, Y, or Z, because they're realizing that it is impacting their mental state, possibly their health, and other aspects of their life in a negative way. And that is something that I believe is quite recent. So the awareness of EMF as a health issue has definitely been increasing consistently over time, but it's only more recently that the broader population that doesn't know anything about EMF has become more aware that technology has the potential for harming themselves and society. And that's, I think, where we are at right now, which makes people much more open to learning more about what those harms are.
And then you see people, I often see people taking a social media break or going to be gone for whatever. I don't know what they call it, a vacation or a timeout, or it cracks me up that it's like a public, yeah. Hey guys, I'm going to be gone. And there's so much noise, like no one's going to know. One's gonna know. But and then you see that on a regular basis. So-and-so's gone for a week, so obviously that may have something to do with what you're talking about is the depression.
It's a good example of it. Yeah.
Right. So that could be part of the depression, comparing yourself to people type of mental.
I gave up Facebook in 2015. Which was a fantastic time to do it because, again, regardless of which political party you find yourself affiliated with in the United States, the 2016 election was a particularly awful time, I think, to be on social media in the United States. And I had just happened, separate from the politics of it, I just decided to give up Facebook, which at the time was the only one I was using, in 2015. And I started to feel the impact on my personal mental state within a week, and I just never went back.
Let me ask you this: I feel like this may not be you, but I feel like people say, "Oh, I'm taking a break from Facebook," but then they spend twice as much time on Instagram, and I'm like, "Why did you take a break?"
That's not me, because again, Facebook was the only one I used. I have accounts with all of them now because I need it for the company. But I'm not the one logging in and scrolling or posting or monitoring or anything like that. I have to occasionally just for administrative purposes. But no, back at the time, I didn't even have an Instagram account. Or I did not replace Facebook with another social platform.
So for you, do you have employees that run your other accounts? Is that what you're saying? You have the accounts, you just don't use them. Yeah. So this is a constant struggle for me, is because we basically run our business online. Like we don't have brick and mortar. We have independent just distributors that sell our products. But for us, it's a lot of work online, and I do try to get away from it. Like we actually just recently committed to spending at least one day out in nature and getting away from technology, and because we know, thank you. We know how much time we spend in front of it, but I struggle with, this is my business. This is how we feed ourselves. So the more time we spend away from it, the less time there is being able to grow your business and market and reach an audience. So that's a struggle that I certainly deal with.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just told you back in 2020 and into 2021, I was working 7 days a week. So I understand that, but I've also made it a point to try to, at least, for instance, take weekends off. And I feel like I am better at my job as a result, even if I can't, get quite as much done. The stuff I'm doing is better. Mm-hmm. But you definitely have to. I mean, that's a struggle. That's the struggle of entrepreneurship, right? That's why so many you see entrepreneurs who are sacrificing health for their business. They're sacrificing other aspects of their quality of life for their business, because the trade-off is always like, oh, well, if I work some more, maybe I'll make some more money.
Right.
But you just. Yeah, so I understand that. I understand that conflict really well, and I would just, and I'm not saying the answer is easy, but you'll be happier if you work a little bit less.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is what you find is that I'm a workaholic. I love to work. I'll work from when I wake up to when I go to sleep, unless I don't consciously say it's time to take a break, as most or many entrepreneurs, but. Completely lost my train of thought. Taking a break and stepping away. It almost, I don't know if you're a movie fan. I like that Seabiscuit movie, that with the horse, Toby's.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire. I never saw it.
You never saw it? You got to watch it. I like the underdog stories. But one of the things about the horse is that he's used to failing his whole life. So then he's running as a racehorse, racing around the track. And they pull him back just a bit before the finish line, and even sometimes they let the horse see another one starting to pass it, and they're pulling the horse back, Seabiscuit, and then they let him go, and he shoots off like a spring, and he beats everyone.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor. Yeah, you take a little time off, and then you come back refreshed, and you're ready to finich the final sprint there.
And that's what I feel like, and even recently here, I think it's just been beginning of January, so it hasn't been long at all, but taking a day off and doing our best to separate completely from technology, then the next day I just feel like so energized and so much more ready to go. Yeah,
no, that's a great anecdote for people to appreciate. It really does make a difference to your quality of life and your ability to perform.
You got to watch the movie. Do they have DVD players in Panama? I'll send it to you. So, and I'm interested in the product end. We have a bunch of our own products. You talked earlier about designing and working on that end of it. Tell our audience about some of the products that you have that can help with.
Sure. So our catalog right now is a couple dozen products. We're always working on more. There's always plenty in the pipeline. But right now, publicly, we have a couple dozen products. And our products are based on EMF shielding, right? So if your listeners go out and just type in EMF Protection Products into Google, you'll see kind of a weird assortment of potential options out there. There's crystals, there's gems, there's pendants, there's little stickers all of these things make all these kinds of claims. EMF shielding is the type of product that I make, and EMF shielding is based in real universally accepted science. It goes back about 200 years to when a British scientist named Michael Faraday created the first Faraday cage. And what he showed is if you weave conductive metals into certain patterns, it will actually shield and deflect EMF radiation. And so our products are all lined with special fabric that create effectively a Faraday cage, except it's just a sheet. It's not like a whole cage that you put a computer in. And so these are based in real science. They are also all tested at independent laboratories to show the efficacy. So all of our product claims are based on independent laboratory testing. And what they do is they deflect radiation generally away from your body. So we have a product like the foam pouch, where you put your phone in the pouch, and then the back of the pouch has this fabric that I'm telling you about. But the front doesn't, right? So it can deflect the radiation away from your body without interfering with your phone's signal or ability to communicate. That's one of my most popular products, has been since I launched it in 2015.
So how do you test? So they're all tested.
Yeah, so you commission these laboratories, and they do what's called attenuation testing. It's a type of radiation testing where you would have, and I don't have any of my props handy because no one ever asked me that question in an interview, but I generally have props. But let's say you have a radiation, for simplicity, let's pretend like you have a cell phone here and an EMF meter here, except in a lab, it's not just a cell phone, it's a very expensive spectrum emitter. And instead of a meter, it's a very expensive spectrum analyzer. But you have a source of EMF, and then you have a tool that can measure how much EMF there is. And so you take a measurement, and then you put your product in between, and you then take another measurement, and you see how much the radiation was cut by the presence of the product, like the phone pouch. So that's how these tests are performed.
So do you test anyone else's? Just for fun, or I'd imagine it's expensive to do the test.
Yeah, that would be an expensive little hobby. Which is, I mean, it's rare that you find a company like mine that has had each and every one of our products tested. Some of them don't test at all. Others will test like one of their whole cat. We don't launch a product unless we have laboratory testing on which we can support our claims, because it's not cheap.
Yeah, I bet. So, and where is that done? Where is that testing done? In the U.S. and
we have different labs. So we've worked with labs in the United States. We've worked with labs in Israel. We've worked with labs in China, and we also have test data on one of our products, actually from Germany. So we work with different labs for different products at different times, depending on, because we launch products all the time. So it depends on a few. There's a variety of factors that go into deciding where and when we're going to get something tested.
And do you have to have it test? I'd imagine you could come up with it. I could say my sock is.
No, you don't. Yeah, that's the thing. Is
this is a brand new EMF protector?
Yeah, no, it's true. Their EMF protection products are completely unregulated. Which is, I actually have a whole video on this that I showed a lot of. It's got, I think that one has like 25,000 views on YouTube, where I explain this kind of thing in detail, why it matters so much to actually look into what EMF protection you're buying before you buy it, because it's completely unregulated. You have a whole bunch of products out there without any basis in demonstrable science, certainly no lab testing to support the claims. And, people, if you're just coming at this, because I also know the consumer mindset. Consumer learns about a problem, they want a solution to the problem, done, right? Except when it comes to EMF, if you just look for a solution to the problem, you're going to be inundated with all of these products that, like I say, they're not based in demonstrable and well-established science. They don't have laboratory science to support their claims. The market, and this is fueled by the fact that it is entirely unregulated. And so it's a real issue in my niche. And I fight hard to try to standardize and legitimize this niche, because I do believe that EMF protection products are an important aspect of reducing your EMF exposure. Like I said before, the two key rules of EMF protection, minimizing and maximizing, right? Those are vital. Those are what everyone should start doing right away. But if you're serious about really cutting your exposures, you do need some good EMF protection products in your arsenal. But the problem is people are going out and buying ones that aren't good. And I'm not saying I'm the only company that makes real ones. But I am saying if you actually go out and do a Google search, a lot of them will not be this type of EMF shielding product that SYB makes.
Yeah, that's what I want to look up. I'm checking it out right now. I'm checking out your competition.
Yeah, let's not mention them, though, shall we?
So if we're looking at EMF protection products, so there's a wide array of all kinds of different stuff.
Yep.
And I'd imagine, well, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Well, so one I get asked about a lot is why don't I make a little sticker that I can put on my phone that makes the phone safe? And because there are companies out there that do that. They make these little stickers that you just put on your phone, and they say it makes your phone safe. And the reason I don't do a product, like I swear, if I could do a product that you just sell a little sticker and you just put it on a phone and it makes it safe, I would be selling that product. But that is an example of one for which there's absolutely no science to support those claims. And in my opinion, my intuition is such that it makes no sense. Like, how could it be safe? It's still sending and receiving these signals. Like, how is it suddenly safe? It doesn't make sense to me. But that's a big one, because I understand from the consumer perspective how compelling a value proposition that is, right? You just buy a sticker. In fact, they're so cheap you can get them in 6-packs very affordably, and then you just smack it on a device and boom, you're protected for the 6-pack. Your family's protected. Stop worrying already.
Yeah, why do people think
totally
that?
Get the appeal of that.
Why do people think that's real? Like, I wouldn't believe that. Like, put a sticker on a phone. What's that going to do?
They're saying they'll solve your problem. And again, EMF. You've taken the time to learn what EMF is and how it works and how it's harmful. For people who've just heard there's EMF, they don't know what it is or how it's actually hurting you, and so they don't know enough to know that makes no sense.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. and the desire to just have your problem solved. I get it. I've been that person before on, looking for a part for my house. Maybe not the best example, but looking for a part for my house. And why can't I find this part? I just want to find it and get this purchase and this transaction in my past. It's over with. I don't have to think about it anymore. I totally relate to that consumer mindset. It's potentially quite harmful when it comes to an issue like EMF, because you'll be buying protection and you won't be protected.
So where do you guys get your products manufactured? All over? You have a specific place?
We manufacture. So like I said, we have 24 products. We have multiple factories. So we have a factory in California. We have a couple of factories in Toronto. We also have many factories in China. So it depends on the specific product, and then of course at the specific time. Because, for instance, when COVID broke out, there were products we were having made in China that we switched over to Toronto. So it all depends on. But it is hard to get. It is hard to get more of my catalog manufactured in North America. It is challenging for a small business that is making its own designs to find reliable manufacturing partners in North America, unfortunately. So we try, like I say, we do have some of our products made in North America, but most of our products are made in China, which is where almost all of our shielding material is also made in China. We have one product that's made with shielding material out of Switzerland, but everything else is made out of China.
It's a nightmare. It really is. Like, we try to source in Canada first, and then we look to North America, like we're looking around the U.S., and it's an absolute nightmare. My gosh, like you find, I'm just dealing with we produce our own products. I'm not sure if you know, but we have a number of health food products, and we're always looking for new manufacturers and designing new products. And my gosh, it's an absolute nightmare. We have so few in Canada, first off, and then dealing with border issues and getting products sent up from the U.S. or from overseas. Like, it's an absolute nightmare. And I'm the first one to say support local and find manufacturers where you can find close. But and I'm not even I know it's super cheap to go overseas, but that's not just the main concern, is that it's cheaper, but it's finding the people that can do a good job and want your business. And
at the volume at which you're operating.
It's so difficult. It's
very
beyond
challenging.
me. I feel like, of course, it's a huge undertaking, but I feel like you need your own you need to design your own manufacturer just to get the service you need.
Yeah.
At any rate, so how do we get? So maybe tell me. I won't keep you too much longer, but what's your business model? Do you guys have warehouses where your products are shipped? Do you do drop shipping model?
No, we don't do drop shipping. We have warehouses throughout North America and Europe, and so when a customer orders from the United States, Canada, UK, or EU, the order will be shipped from. So they don't have to. They'll get fast, affordable shipping, and they don't have to pay, even if you're outside of the United States, you don't have to pay import tariffs on your order because it's being shipped from within your region. So that is, so we manufacture everything, we get it to our warehouses. When customers order it, it's shipped to them from our warehouses.
Nice. Okay, so I want to buy something. What do I do?
Thank you. Well, you just email me. But if you're one of your listeners, our website is at shieldyourbody.com. That's shieldYourBody, all one word, .com. And our whole catalog is up there. Again, if you're shopping from the United States, of course, that's where you go, but also Canada, UK, or the EU. You can just go to shieldYourBody.com, and you can buy with any of our products that are in stock in your area. With fast, affordable shipping, with no import duties, no import delays, no customs borders, none of that.
I'm looking at your website right now, and so tell me what product that I should buy, or the first one that you'd recommend.
Well, it depends, obviously, what you're looking to do. My favorite product is the sling bag, which is like a small backpack. It's nice, stylish, convenient size. It can hold. So I already explained how the phone pouch works. It works the same way as the phone pouch, except it's not just a phone pouch. It's, like I say, this nice, convenient, stylish bag. So it can fit a phone. It can fit a phone and a tablet. It can fit your Kindle. It can also fit your wallet and some cards and some pens, whatever you're carrying around with you. So it allows you to carry more than just your phone, but while protecting you from whatever you throw, the radiation from whatever's in there. Like I say, a phone, an e-reader, a tablet. That is personally my favorite product. Also, the Hard. That is a great one. That is under headsets, and that's the headset anti-radiation device. We have air tube headsets. Those are kind of a traditional style of anti-radiation headset, which people can find from a bunch of different sellers. We are the only company with a product like the Hard. The thing with air tubes is that they convert the sound from wire to air, and in so doing, they kind of really cut into the audio fidelity. So basically, like, I use air tubes. I use them for calls. I use them to listen to Drew's podcast, but I don't listen to music with them because the sound quality is so poor. What the Hard does is the Hard will filter out the cell phone radiation, but you can use any pair of headset that you like, right? So you could have your $300 Bose headsets on and use the Hard. You don't need to be stuck with air tubes. So the Hard is a little adapter that you plug into your phone or your laptop or your tablet that will filter out the radiation before it goes up the headphone. So you don't need anti-radiation headphones when you use the Hard. Those are two great products. But like I said, I have a couple dozen. There's a lot to browse through. It all depends what people are looking to protect themselves from. If for men who are having fertility issues, who are, for instance, they're trying to have a child, the boxer briefs are a really fantastic solution. For people who are looking for protection in the bedroom from EMF, the bed canopy it's a slightly, it's a higher price point product because it's a lot of silver that goes into that. But the bed canopy is a pretty phenomenal product in terms of creating protection. So we have a lot for different use cases. But the phone pouch is the most popular one. The Hard is a really great and innovative one. And the sling bag is my personal favorite. It's the one I use the most. All of these products are backed by laboratory testing. The laboratory test data is posted on the website.
Okay, so this sling bag, I'm interested in the sling bag. Is it cool? Is it like a new age fanny pack?
No, it's not a fanny pack.
Is someone going to throw things at me when I'm walking down the street?
Look, you're on the sling bag page. You see look at how good the model looks. You'll look just as good as the models.
She does look good. Good.
No, I love sling bags. I love sling bags. So I don't think that. I mean, it doesn't. I know I don't want to offend anyone who was really into fanny packs. So I'll just say I think the sling bag is a really stylish look. And like I say, it has a lot of the benefits of a backpack, but without the size kind of taking up too much space.
Yeah, I like it. We're doing a bit more hiking. I could throw the phone in there, not worried about getting EMF radiation in my back.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm sold on that. I want one of those. I'll figure out how to buy it after we get off this phone call. How about that?
Okay, sounds great.
All right, my man. I think that was fantastic. Thanks so much for spending so much time with me today on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Drew. Anytime. I love chatting with you.
All right, sounds good.
True Form Life.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Exploring Mind and Body. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. You can always find us on Facebook.com/TrueFormLife. We post up there a couple times a day on our story. We're always trying to bring you more content around living a healthy lifestyle, whether that be nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. We also have free challenges that we do at least once a month. So if you follow us along there, you'll be able to join maybe a plank challenge or a squat challenge, Tabata challenge, whatever it may be. We'd love to have you join us. We're also on Instagram.com/DrewTadia. Again, we're posting up there a couple times a day along with our story, all dedicated to keeping you fit and healthy and on track. Our main website is TrueFormLife.com. If you want to check out some of our products, some of our services, or if you just want some great content from videos to blog posts and recipes and more, we got all that at TrueFormLife.com. Once again, thank you so much for being here. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. As always, I'm your host, Drew Tadia, in health and fitness for a better world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Exploring Mind and Body with True Form Life's Drew Tadia, fitness expert. To find out more about the show, Drew Tadia, or to listen to past shows, visit exploringmindandbody.com.